I love it. Today before you, I have House Resolution 19, and I'm going to try to go through it pretty quickly. If you want to follow along, I'm just going to say the line numbers. So the whereas on number 7, what this does is it affirms that the Supreme Court has a key role in American government. We are not denying that the Supreme Court has an important rightful place. Line 10, it's just noting that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land and all the laws made in pursuance of it. It's not the Supreme Court's opinion that's the supreme law of the land. It is the actual Constitution. That's why we take an oath to the Constitution, not to the Supreme Court. Line 13, it talks about the federal court is not bound by the text of the Constitution. Judges themselves are bound by oath to follow the Constitution. Line 16, the whereas there, what that's saying is the Supreme Court decisions that are not consistent with the Constitution are not binding to the states. Line 19, it's talking about the decision of Roe versus Wade. And I think it's just, we can just make it clear here. This is what that did in 1973 is that allowed a woman. It basically gave the Supreme Court was giving permission for a woman for us to kill children in the womb, and it's morally wrong, and I believe it's unconstitutional. Line 21. Whereas preborn persons are actually entitled to equal protection of the laws under the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was ratified after the Civil War. It was in order to bind upon the southern states equal treatment of slaves. That was the intent of the 14th Amendment. And that's where I think we're hoping that the Supreme Court will rule differently coming this summer. Line 23. Courts and prosecutors have long recognized equal protection by enforcing the state's criminal murder laws and imposing prison sentences for the murder of preborn persons. This was mentioned by Representative Gannon the other day. He was saying, well, are we making this illegal? At this moment, it is illegal to kill a fetus in the womb, but we just give exemptions for that. We have 2 people in prison right now in Idaho for killing a mother with a fetus in her womb. So there's Silas Parks. He's got 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter for the mother and the preborn baby. And then there's Jeremy Swanson. He's from up in North Idaho. He was sentenced to first-degree murder for murdering his wife, who was pregnant, and has got a second sentence for second-degree murder for her unborn child. Line 26, it just points out that 31 children are killed every week, over 1,500 a year in abortions in just 3 cities in Idaho. This is just a lot of babies in Idaho, a lot of future Idahoans. Line 29, I'll just read that. Idaho legislator has conformed to the code, conformed Idaho Code to Roe and has patiently endured 49 years of waiting for the federal court to change its judicial precedent set in Roe and has abided by the federal court's what I would say is unconstitutional opinions, while over 73,000 children have been aborted by this state. Let's see. Other states have taken stands on rulings that the Supreme Court have made that they don't agree with. We have many states that ignore. Actually, I'll just back up. We have done so in other matters. We're listening to this opinion of the courts, but for same-sex marriage, we have said on our Constitution that we don't define marriage the same way the Supreme Court does. Moving on to line 34, talking about It says, regardless of which president has appointed the federal court's justices, the courts have remained consistent in their rulings, over 40 rulings. So 16 of the last 20 Supreme Court justices have been appointed by pro-life Republican presidents. And we continue to wait, but over the last 5 decades, we've consistently upheld this ruling of the courts. Line 38 talks about the last time they've reaffirmed this. The court just reaffirmed this 20 months ago. Their decision with it, it was the decision of June Medical Services versus Russo. And moving on to page 2, whereas the legislature and the House are oath bound to follow the decisions of the federal court insofar as the federal court follows the Constitution, we are truly a sovereign state that does not have to obey the court for every decision. The court expects the state to implement court decisions as if they are law, but the state has the ability to refuse that. We have the right to have independent judgment of if a order of the court is constitutional or not. Page 2, line 4, talks about just the ongoing. It just makes a statement. This is just not a minor issue. 73,000 children have had their lives taken by abortions. And, you know, I keep thinking if states continue to ignore the federal court's 2005 marijuana decision, there's 36 states now that just are ignoring that and doing what they want. Why can't we do the same for abortion? Almost done here. I'm at the therefores. So line 8, it's just basically saying we petition the Supreme Court regarding their decision this coming summer and hope that they reverse Roe versus the Roe decision precedent. This is our last chance in this legislature to encourage them to take the right course in their decision, and that's why I'm running this today. And then at the very end, it just says if they don't reverse their course, we want to lay down the educational foundation and framework in Idaho that we do have the right to stand up to this. Whether we choose to or not, that's going to be a decision for next year's legislature, what they want to do with it. But for now, I just would like to encourage the Supreme Court to really look at their decision they made concerning the 14th Amendment and consider maybe they want to reverse that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Scott, for your presentation today. Are there questions for Representative Scott? Representative Barbieri.
Not for a question, Mr. Chairman. You know, aside from the tragedy of the slaughter, there's a practical aspect of this. We're concerned about taxes. We're concerned about Social Security. If these babies were allowed to have lived and become productive citizens, we would have so few less fiscal problems statewide and personally. I move that we send House Resolution number 19 to the floor with a due pass recommendation.
Committee, we do have a motion to send House Resolution 19 to the floor with a due pass recommendation. We do have individuals that are signed up to testify. So I would like to move to the phase of public testimony. Representative Mathias, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be back. Representative Scott, quick question. Lines 38 through 40 on page 1 says that the last unconstitutional abortion opinion about June Medical Services, what's the case that found that court decision unconstitutional?
Representative
I couldn't
Scott.
find it.
I'm sorry. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Mathias, I do not know. I don't have it in front of me, but it was June Medical Services, LLC versus Russo, RUSSO. You want to look that up?
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barring anyone else's inability to cite the case for me that found that unconstitutional, that would be a false statement of fact. And if that's a false statement of fact, I'm not going to be able to support this.
Thank you, Representative Mathias. First signed up to testify, Chelsea Lincoln. Is she here? Got her as in person. We'll move on. I mean, she might be in another room. So Blaine Canzati. State your name, who you represent. Blaine, you'll be given 2 minutes today for public testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Blaine Canzati, Idaho Family Policy Center. We support this resolution, and we ask you guys to send it to the floor. Thomas Jefferson said this: to consider the judges of the Superior Court, the Supreme Court, as the ultimate arbiters of constitutional questions would be a dangerous doctrine which would place us under the despotism of an oligarchy. They have, with others, the same passion for party, for power, and for privileges of their core. And their power is more dangerous as they are in office for life and not responsible as the other functionaries are to the elective control. The Supremacy Clause in the U.S. Constitution says that the Supremacy Clause says that the Constitution and the laws in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land, not federal laws and not federal court orders that exceed constitutional limits or violate constitutional principles. Federal law that violates the Constitution is no law at all. It is void and it is of no effect. The state of Idaho is a sovereign state, and it has a responsibility, especially when we're talking about morally grave issues like abortion, to intercede when the federal government, including the federal judiciary, oversteps its constitutional limits in order to protect the rights of its citizens. And preborn babies indeed have God-given rights. So with that, I ask that you support this resolution, and I thank the sponsor for bringing it.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Gonzatti? Seeing none, thank you, Blaine, for your
have one
testimony.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry. A representative, again, I didn't see your light there. I apologize.
That's okay. Just one question. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gonzalez, so I'm not following your citation of the Supremacy Clause because it specifically says it establishes that it establishes that the federal Constitution and federal law generally take precedence over state laws and even state constitutions. And in this resolution, you say the resolution says there's been 40 opinions over the decades that don't support your position. And I'm questioning your assertion that there's some kind of state sovereignty that nullifies those 40 decisions and the Supreme Court decision and the Supremacy Clause. Could you specifically cite to me exactly what your authority is for that state sovereignty argument that you had?
Mr. Gonzatti.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Representative Gannon, thank you for the question. So the Supremacy Clause says that the Constitution and the laws in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land. And so court orders mandating that states make abortion legal, that is not in pursuance with the Constitution. The Constitution in no way protects the right to abortion. It is not enumerated in the Bill of Rights. It is not a power that the states have given to the federal government. And so therefore, those court orders are lawless and they're void and of no effect. And so the state of Idaho can and should and has a moral responsibility to step in to protect the rights of its citizens.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Gonzatti.
Thank you.
Chelsea, I think I saw you come into the back of the room. Welcome to House State Affairs. State your name, who you represent. We'll give you 2 minutes today for public testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Crane, committee. I'm Chelsea Guiana Lincoln, and I am the Idaho Programs Manager of Legal Voice. We are a nonprofit. We work for the protection and progress of women and LGBTQ rights across the Northwest, and we are adamantly opposed to House Resolution 19. We feel that it is unnecessary and has a tinge of political grandstanding at this point. We don't feel that there are any actions needed. Idaho has taken a lot of time and effort to pass many laws, letting us know how this body feels about abortion access. And this body tells the SCOTUS every day when they believe that they are doing or making a rule incorrectly, when we pass unconstitutional laws that as a result have a lawsuit filed against them, costing taxpayers money. If we want to do something for folks, especially for children that are born, then the body would be astute to better fund education, livable wages, affordable housing, access to health care, the list goes on. So we are adamantly opposed to this resolution. And on a personal note, having been born and raised in Idaho, knowing how strongly we believe in local control, as somebody who was 24 weeks pregnant, there is nothing more local than my own body. So we ask that you hold this resolution in committee, and I will stand for questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today. Are there questions? Seeing none, thank you for being here today. I do have one person that signed up to testify virtually, so we're going to try to bring them in. Misty Tolman, and then followed by David Ripley, and that's all we have signed up to testify today. So Misty, we'll try to bring you in. Misty, good morning.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Welcome to House State Affairs. I think you know the drill. We'll give you 2 minutes today for public testimony, and if there are any questions, we'll have you take questions.
Great. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you.
Chairman Crane, members of the committee. My name is Misty Deli-Carpini-Tolman. I'm the Idaho State Director for Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates, and we're here in strong opposition to House Resolution 19. This resolution, which urges the Supreme Court of the United States to overturn the landmark ruling establishing the constitutional right to abortion, is pure political theater with no impact on the Supreme Court's actions and certainly no impact on improving the lives of Idahoans. While the Supreme Court has been increasingly politicized over the years, and we're awaiting a decision on the first direct challenge to Roe v. Wade since its ruling in 1973, the separation of power grants distinct roles to each branch of government. The Idaho House of Representatives' opinion on any pending ruling has no bearing on the court's decision and is a waste of this body's time and resources. While prioritizing symbolic actions that do not improve the pressing concerns of Idahoans, this legislature continues to be laser focused on undermining reproductive freedom. Just yesterday, the Senate passed SB 1309, a shameful bill that's intended to bring an end to abortion access in Idaho.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, excuse me just a second, Misty. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering if we can keep the testimony a little more objective.
I'm going to allow her.
Topic.
This is it. I'm going to allow her to go ahead with your testimony, Misty. I understand the objection that you're wanting it to keep just to HCR or HR 19, but she's also wanting to tie in, I think, actions that were taken in the Senate yesterday and that we will end up hearing in this committee. So I'll give you a little leeway there, Ms. Tolman. So go ahead and continue.
Thank you, Chairman Crane. I did also want to point out that this body passed HB 21, which was a bill that alleges to clean up existing abortion law while leaving intact requirements that have been ruled unconstitutional, as well as both chambers passing resolutions that recognize the anniversary of Roe v. Wade as a day of tears, which is an affront to the thousands of Idahoans whose lives were improved because of access to abortion care. If we're just speaking to this bill alone, we simply feel this is a giant waste of time because the Idaho legislature, while out of step with Idahoans, has left nothing unclear about where you stand with your myriad of anti-choice legislation that you've been pushing the last handful of years. This resolution is a waste of time and simply giving people an opportunity to speak about abortion in the most basic ways. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I urge you to reject this resolution and focus on solutions to the real problems facing Idahoans.
Thank you, Ms. Tolman. Are there questions for Ms. Tolman? Seeing none, Misty, thank you for testifying today. Final person to testify is Mr. Ripley. David, state your name and who you represent. You'll be given 2 minutes today for public testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm David Ripley, Executive Director of Idaho Chooses Life. We are here to support this resolution. In particular, the call upon the Supreme Court to reverse its grievous ruling in the Roe v. Wade case. Idaho Chooses Life was privileged to be able to file a brief before the Supreme Court asking for the Supreme Court to reverse its decision and to return the matter to the states. And one of the arguments that our brief makes is included in this resolution, which is that it is an interference with the prerogatives and duties of this legislative body to protect the public health and welfare of Idaho citizens. I would also like to take this opportunity, since I'm not sure I'm going to have a chance to address this committee before this session is over. We are on the verge of great change in the Idaho legislature, probably on this committee. And I just want to take this moment to thank you for the work that you've done over many, many years to defend the innocent, the fact is, if we are fortunate to see Roe overturned, Idaho is as well positioned as any state in the union to defend preborn children. And that is because of the work, the tireless work, the hours and hours of work that this committee has put in over many, many years. And it is a privilege to know you. And I just thank you on behalf of the people of Idaho for your faithfulness in protecting and defending the most vulnerable of us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ripley. Are there questions for Mr. Ripley? Seeing none, thank you for being here today. That concludes public testimony today. Representative Scott, if you'd like to come up and wrap this up, that would be great, and then we'll take action on the bill.
Thank you. I don't have too much to say, just a couple comments. Case law is just that. It's case law. It is not law. It's not put through the legislative body. This bill is not about, or this resolution is not about political grandstanding or the other comments that were made. This is truly to our last-ditch effort to try to have any influence over the Supreme Court. I know I signed on to an amicus brief this summer to put my opinion in. I think we have to do everything we can possibly do to try to stand up for the people that have no voice. And it's a very important issue. So I think on that, I'll be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Are there questions for Representative Scott? Seeing none, we do have a motion to send House Resolution 19 to the floor with a due pass recommendation. Are there discussion on that motion? Representative Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to, I guess, weigh in and have my voice on the record.
Could you pull your mic just a little bit closer so those that are watching remotely can hear?
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I would like my voice on the record on this issue just because it's such a heinous practice that we've been participating in for 50 years, and I look around and I see how many legislators we have that are under 50 that had their parents chosen this route wouldn't be here, and all the people that we've missed out on society, people who could have added so much to our culture and our community, and they were instead killed, and that's a sad thing. And I think we're so quick to sacrifice on the altar of choice these precious lives, and I look back and I don't know how long you'd have to go back in the history of the world to see where these tribes would sacrifice other humans to their god or whatever, and we're sacrificing for something as frivolous as personal choice and the ability to have recreation. And I just can't get over how detrimental it is to society to not be willing to, as the representative just said, protect the most vulnerable part of our population. And I just again wanted that to be on record.
Thank you, Representative Armstrong. I'll count that as debate in favor of the motion. Is there any further debate or discussion on the motion? The motion is to send House Resolution 19 to the floor with a due pass recommendation. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. It will be done. Would you like to be recorded as voting no? Representative Mathias and Representative Gannon would like to be recorded as voting no. We do have minutes to approve. So Representative Young, are you prepared to approve the minutes?